All right, Jocelyn, what's the second one? What's my A, B, and C? Good. 1, -1, +12. Beautiful. Stephen, what's number 3? What's A, B, and C? Mm-hmm. Yep. Beautiful. Kari, what's 4's A, B, and C? Just 1, right? Just whatever's in front of x squared. What's the next one? And then if I need to bring 30, I need to bring it over there. How do I do that? Subtract it, right? So my whole answer will be x squared plus 13x minus 30. So what would my C be? -30. How many people caught that? I saw Angel did. Does anyone else? Michael, what's the next one then? What'd you do? How do you get 8x to the other side? Subtract, right? But does the one with the x, does that come first, second, or third? X squared is first. Then x is next. So you minus 8x, then minus 20. So now what would my b be, Michael? -8. And then what's my c, Michael? -20. Does that make sense? So we always just need to make sure we put it in order. Keandra, what's number 6 is? 3, 11, 6. Let's head this back. Make sure you're doing this because this will save you time for the actual factoring part. Angel, what's 7's A, B, and C? Damon, what's 8's A, B, and C? Mm-hmm. How do I get the 9 to the other side? Anyone help them out? How would I get 9 to the other side? Subtract it, right? Because it's on the other side. So it would be 2x squared plus 3x minus 9. So what would that C be? -9. Jaslyn, I'm gonna have you do this one. What's A, B, and C here? Yeah, good job, Jaslyn. Did everyone see how she got 0? Because there's no middle term, so it's 1, 0, -25. Perfect. Victor, what's 10's? Well, first, how do I get 100 to the other side? Not the right. I want to move it to the other side, the equal side. Yes. And so you end up getting x squared minus 100. So that being said, Andrew, what's your A? B. 0. Good. And what's your C? Beautiful. Does that make sense? Cool. Should I have more or no? I think that's more. Allison, what's my A, B, and C? And then Angel, what's 12? Yep. Cool. Does everyone have that down? A, B, and C. Cool. So we're going to be doing factoring in case you guys forgot. A lot of us have struggled with that before, and that's the X game. So you remember that big X? So when we draw our big X, it's A times C is at the top, and B is at the bottom. I just remember B is at the bottom because it starts with B, and so does bottom. So all you're doing now is just multiplying A times C to get your top number, and then putting B at the bottom. So what is 1 times 20? Good. And since you're multiplying it, I'm putting times 20. And what's your B? Cool. So now you're just going to go ahead and set up all your X's. So it's always just A times C at the top and B at the bottom. So what is 1 times 12? 12. So we're multiplying the 12 and b at the bottom. And so now you're just making your x's. So a times c is at the top and then b is at the bottom. So go through and make your x's. I'm going to just cold call again once we're done. So we're kind of breaking it down step by step. First we label our a, b, and c. Then we do our x gains. So now you're just doing the x like this for like. So it's a times c top always and b at the bottom. So if it's always a times c at the top, b at the bottom. Make sure it's still in the x. Be careful to make sure you're not doing, get rid of these. It's just the coefficients of 3. Real quick, I want you to star number 3 because it's going to be a little bit different. You don't need to make your x for number 3 yet. So star number 3, you don't need to make your x. If you did, it's okay. But cool. All right, I'm going to cold call. Damon, what would be at the top here? What am I multiplying to? Yeah, what's 1 times negative 30? Negative 30. So multiplying negative 30. What's my b? Beautiful. Betsy, what would my x look like for number 5? What would be at the top? It's just a times c. Just 1 times negative 1. Negative 1. And then b is always at the bottom. What's my b? Yep. Victor, what did you get for 6? Does everyone get how we're making these x's? All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, what's my number 7? Steven, what would be at the top? What's 8? 3 times 8. What's 3 times 8? 24. And then what would be at the bottom? B for the bottom. Negative. Allison, what would 8 be when I read it? And what's the bottom? Perfect. Michael, what would the top be? Yep, negative 25. What would the bottom be? Beautiful. Jocelyn, what would 10 be? what would 11 be? The other one, help them out. 180. What would my bottom be? Come on, you're trying the last one now. Negative 9. What will be add to? Perfect. Does everyone get how we do the x's? Because if you don't get that, then that's okay. So now for each one, you're doing the x game. So you're figuring out, okay, what multiplies to the top? What multiplies to the top and adds to the bottom? So like right here, we're finding two numbers that multiply to this one. That's why we put a multiplying sign. But they have to add to this. So what you can do is go, okay, I can see that there's two positives. Both numbers are positive. So I know it's going to be two positive numbers. Then I list the numbers that multiply to 20. So Victor, give me two numbers that multiply to 20. 5 and 4. What is 5 plus 4? Ding, ding, ding. Is that what I want? I do, right? So I know it's positive 5 and positive 4. That's all you're doing for this part now. So to get those numbers, you're figuring out, okay, what multiplies to that top number? And out of those, which ones are going to add to my bottom? This should be a minus right here. So change this to negative 12. Then right here, if I see it's multiplying to negative 12, I know that one of them has to be negative, one has to be positive. What numbers multiply to 12? 6 and 2, and so I'll put one of them, 6 times negative 2, negative 6 times 2. Do any of those add to negative 1? No. What else multiplies 12? 3 and 4. Perfect. And so I know if I'm adding to a negative, the bigger one's got to be negative. So which one's bigger, 3 or 4? 4. So I know 3 plus negative 4 is negative 1. Ding, ding, ding. So I'm going to put 3, negative 4, and 3. Does that make sense what you're doing here? So like for this one right here, we're skipping 3 for now. For 4, what multiplies to negative 30 adds to 13. So what two numbers multiply to 30? 10 and 3. And we know since they're multiplying to negative 30, one's got to be negative. What else multiplies to 30? 15 and 2. So we list all the things that multiply to that top one. Then out of those, which ones add to 13? Negative 2 and 15. So if I put it in my calculator, I can see negative 2 and 15 are going to add to 13. I also can see since that bottom number is positive, the bigger number is going to be positive. Does that make sense? So just so you guys know, like the timeline, we're only spending 1 day on this because we've got to move on. So you're practicing the skill today. And then next period, we're going to teach you a little trick for multiple choice tests. And then we're going to give you just a quiz to check up and make sure you understand it. So this is the next part that you're doing for each question, is coming up with your factors. So I want you to go through it, and I want you to figure out, okay, what two factors multiply to the top one and add to the bottom one. So that's the next part of factoring. And so you might need to use a calculator. You can't like figure out, okay, I don't know two numbers that multiply to 20. Well, first you could see, oh, it's multiplying to a negative, so I know one of them's got to be negative. There's a lot of tricks with this, but the thing is, it's like, if you've got to know your multiplication facts. If you don't, the tricks don't really help them. So see if you can fill in the rest of the x's.
I'm just gonna do this one. I would maybe talk to you about solving and that's what I was gonna do next, like the beginning of it. Because they know it's the alphabet number that we talked about.
Right. That's totally fine. I just
Yeah.
saying.
Okay, so, Jaslyn, did you get this number 5? Negative, what did you say? Beautiful, positive 2. Perfect. Kamari, did you get this one right here? 18 and 11? Did anyone get it yet? What did you get? 9 and 2, good. 9 times 2 is 18, 9 plus 2 is 11. Cool. What about the back page? We got 7. Go for it. We got 12 and 2. But the thing is it wouldn't add to net. It would have to both be negative. And since it's not, that one wouldn't work. What else multiplies to negative 24? What else does it this one? Did I set it up wrong? I came up with these myself, so probably. We'll use negative 12.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that works. Woo!
If it was positive. Yeah.
It was. Oh. Okay, cool. Good job, Dan. What about the next one? Go for it, Michael. 6 and negative 3. Beautiful. Next one, we got it. Negative 5 and what's the other one? 5. Do you guys see the relationship? This one, they're the same number, different sign. What do you think this one's going to be then? Negative 10 and 10. So when it looks like that, it's always the same number, which is basically whatever the square root of that number is. So the square root of 100 is 10 and negative 10. The square root of 25 is 5 and negative 5. All right, last two. What about this? We'll skip that one for right now. What about this one right here? Anyone get this? Yeah. Yep, negative 9 and 1. Perfect. Cool. So, last part of this is figuring out we have to look at our A. When A is 1, it means our lives are going to be a lot easier because we don't have much to do. So see right here where it says A equals 1. Do you guys see that right here? So if A equals 1, how you write them as factors is you literally just write them like this: x plus 5, x plus 4. And that's it. So if A equals 1, factoring is a lot easier. So like for this one, we can see A equals 1, my life's going to be way easier. What are your two factors you found here? Good. So it's for x minus 4, x plus 6. And that's it. If A is greater than 1, so skip that one for right now. We'll do this last. But if we go down to this bottom one, C6, see how A is not 1? Do you guys see that? See how A is not 1? What you're going to do is you're doing the box method, but you're doing this. Remember the box method where we multiply? So what you do, we kind of went over this before break. You put the A term right here in the first box, so 3x squared. You put the last term in the last box. What's the last term right here? 6. And now instead of 11, we're going to break it up with our two factors. So positive 9x and positive 2x. You can do this if a equals 1 too. It's just more work when you don't really need to do that. So all I did is I put the first term in the first box, the last term in the last box, and instead of writing 11, I broke it up between these ones, the 9 and 2. Then all you do is you find the greatest common factor of each row and each column. So like right here, what do they both have? What letter? What letter do they both have? X. So I put X at the top. Then what's the greatest common factor of 9 and 6? What number goes into both of them equally? 3. Positive 3. Then I do it this way. They both have an X, but what's the greatest common factor of 3 and 9? 3. So it's going to be 3x. What's the greatest common factor of 2 and 6? 2. And so those are your factors. So your answers are these right here. 3x plus 2. X plus 3. So you're basically doing the box method, but backwards. Like the multiplying that we did, so we can check and be like, okay, 3x times x is 3x squared, 3x times 3 is 9x, 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 3 is 6. Should match exactly up like that. Does that make sense? Let's try another one. So let's go to 7. So right here, I can see A is not 1, so I'm going to do the box. Even if A was 1 and you want to do the box, you can do it. So what goes in the first box right here? 3x squared. What goes in the last box? Or we put it positive 8. Positive 8. And now instead of negative 14, what are we splitting it up between? What two factors do we just get? Negative 12x. What's the other one? Negative 2x. Then all we do is we find the greatest common factor of each one. So what does 3 and 12, what's the greatest common factor between those two? What goes into both 3 and 12? 3. And then they both have an x, right? So I put 3x. Then what goes into 2 and 8? 2. Then right here, what do they both have? X. And what do they both have? 4. Perfect. Now let's make sure it makes sense, right? Does 3 times x equal 3x squared? 3x times x? Yep. Does 2 times x equal negative 2x? It doesn't, right? I need to put a negative right there. Now it's negative 2 times x equals negative 2x. 4 times 3x equals negative 12x. I got to put a minus sign right there too. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. So your answers would be 3x minus 2, x minus 4. Is that making sense? A little, maybe, yes. Make sure you guys are focused and asking questions, especially because like we gotta whiz through this. Do you guys want to try one more together, or do you want to try some on your own? Why don't you try some on your own? We'll go back to the front. See if you can practice factoring. The front page is most of it is for a equals 1, so you don't even need to do the box. So we're gonna have you guys practice. We'll go over it and just make sure you got the right answers. But you do want to make sure that you're practicing this, not just kind of taking the notes down, because it's not going to help much if you don't practice it. Because remember, you guys have like 3 more weeks of new material, and that's it. You're done. The last month is just going to kind of be like very chill. If you can put in your work for 3 weeks and like get this done and make sure you understand it, we'll make sure the rest of the school year after your milestone is pretty chilled out. For what?
I don't know. I don't think we have to do these, but we will have